Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on the types of teaching that you'll encounter at university. We're going to be looking at three of the main types of teaching that students encounter, not just at the University of Leicester, but at universities across the UK and indeed across the world. And for each one, we're going to say a little bit about what they are designed to achieve, and then a little bit about how you can get the most from these different types of teaching. Okay, so we're going to start with larger group teaching sessions, for example, lectures. And perhaps the most iconic image of the university is the lecture theatre. And it's certainly true that for most students, lectures will form a central component of the teaching for their course. Although lectures can be invaluable in aiding your learning, though, they will not give you everything they need to know for your course. Other types of teaching, plus your own independent studies, will be essential to support and supplement what you gain from lectures. So the sorts of things these sessions are used for are to provide core knowledge, to introduce particular themes, concepts, ideas, etc., to inspire questions, queries, and further lines of inquiry, so to give you plenty of things to think about, and also increasingly to invite you to interact, so you might get set activities like a short topic quiz or a brief discussion exercise. So it's not just about listening to someone else doing the talking, sometimes you'll be asked to participate as well, and that's more and more common in universities these days. In terms of getting the most from larger group teaching sessions, it's really a question of making sure you go into the lecture with some idea or perhaps some prior knowledge, having maybe read a relevant chapter from a textbook about the lecture topic. Perhaps think about some questions that you'd either like to raise directly or you'd like to use to help guide your thinking and note making. It's really important to listen as actively as possible and to take notes, I guess, more effectively as a result. So that means being more selective, not just writing down everything you hear, but listening out for what's important and particularly relevant. Good idea to follow up any questions that arise, either directly with the lecturer or indeed in your own time by going away and doing some more reading or thinking, etc. Also, it's valuable to spend a bit of time at the end of the lecture, either on your own or with your classmates and other people on your course, making sure that you've understood what's been talked about and you've picked up on what the most important and relevant themes are. Now, as we said before, depending on the type of subject you're studying, you'll also encounter lots of different types of teaching. And certainly if you're doing humanities and social sciences, it's very common for you also to be learning in smaller group contexts, such as seminars or group tutorials. And these provide valuable opportunities to clarify and deepen your understanding of certain topics and themes. Crucially, smaller group teaching sessions tend to be more about discussing and sharing knowledge and ideas rather than listening to the teacher impart this knowledge and ideas to you. So there'll be a big emphasis on generating discussion and debate. And smaller group sessions are used to do the following sorts of things. So you've got greater depth than can be provided in a lecture, better chance for you to raise any questions or queries that you might have. Really, really important to give you a chance to reflect on and develop your own ideas and positions on particular topics or themes. For example, an issue over which scholars within your discipline disagree. Very often you'll be asked within a seminar to think about that and to maybe argue different perspectives in relation to particular questions or problems. Discussion and debate. Very often seminars are built around discussions and debates that you're encouraged to take part in. Sometimes as well, seminars will be used to prepare you for key assessment activities such as a forthcoming assignment or project or an exam that might be coming up. And last but not least, they provide you with really valuable experience for collaborative and group working. Because they're so discussion based, it's a good way of gaining experience of how to work effectively with other people, including other people who often have very different ideas to your own and very different understandings of the world to your own. In terms of getting the most out of these sessions, it's a bit like the lecture really. It's about making sure that you bring as much of yourself, your own questions, your own ideas, etc. to the process. So if you're set some reading to do beforehand, try and use this to develop some key ideas or questions that you want to discuss. Do come prepared with at least some questions, and also come prepared to listen and speak in the session. The best sessions are really those where the students do most of the talking. And related to that is really treating these smaller group sessions as a chance not just to learn from your tutors and lecturers, but also to learn from your student peers as well. Okay, so last but not least then, thinking about practical teaching sessions such as lab work or field work, etc. These are really designed to provide you with hands-on experiences about how knowledge is produced in your subject. So you're not just learning about the science, you're also actually doing the science. You're engaging in experiments, observations, etc. As such, they provide you with a really good opportunity to develop those practical skills and practices and principles that you need in order to be a scholar in your subject or subjects of study. They're also a chance for your lecturers to observe and assess how you're getting on and your own ability to carry out particular practices, for example. So they serve both the purpose of knowledge building, but also building those sorts of practices that enable scientists to engage in scientific knowledge production. And when it comes to getting the most from these, really important to take part as actively as possible, so not just be a passive observer, but actually participate as much as possible. Observe others, always ask questions, seek help and advice where needed, and of course a particular issue to consider where this type of teaching is concerned is to make sure that you are fully aware of any relevant health and safety procedures and hazards for obvious reasons. I'm going to leave you with a brief quote from the philosopher Erich Fromm, who was also a university teacher himself. And in lots of ways, what Fromm has to say here, I think, captures what most lecturers today, even though this was written some time ago now, what most lecturers today would really want their students to develop when it comes to their attitudes and their approaches to studying at university. So what Fromm says is that more active learners have thought beforehand about the problems the lectures will be dealing with and have in mind certain questions and problems of their own. They've been occupied with the topic and it interests them. Instead of being passive receptacles of words and ideas, they listen, they hear, and most important, they receive and they respond in an active, productive way. What they listen to stimulates their own thinking processes. New questions, new ideas, new perspectives arise in their minds. Their listening is an alive process. So I think that quite neatly captures the kinds of attitudes that in universities were really, really very keen for students to develop. And it very much links back to the kinds of things we were talking about in the earlier unit on independent study. It's about starting to take more responsibility for your own learning, but also starting to develop your own questions, your own lines of inquiry. Okay, we'll leave it there. For the rest of this unit, there's some more information on the types of assessment you'll encounter at university, and as with the other units, there's a brief quiz for you to do as well. Thank you for listening.